We survived the State of the Union. It's always kind of boring, isn't it? And kind of frustrating. You sit and you watch and they lie. And they lie and they lie and they lie and they have the bully pulpit to lie. In general, there's not even very much debate, although last night there was some, which was odd. But before we get to Joe Biden and the lies and everything else in the story from last night, let's focus on what was most important last night. Me. You see, if you tuned in to the first to watch the State of the Union, as you should, you would have gotten to enjoy Kelly Cam like many did.
Winning the competition should unite all of us. We face serious challenges across the world. Or your child gets deadly ill, or something happens to you.
Bump it.
What are you going to have to get money to pay
Bump
for
it.
those medical bills?
Spin it.
Or you're going to have to sell the
High
house
score.
or try to get a second mortgage on it. I get it. Restoring the dignity of work means making education an affordable ticket to the middle class. You know, when we made public education, the children to go to preschool are nearly 50% more likely to finish high school and go on to earn a 2 or 4 year degree, no matter their background they came from. Passing the most sweeping gun safety law in 3 decades that the majority of responsible gun owners already support. Would we stand for the most basic of principles? Would we stand for sovereignty? Would we stand for the right of people to live free of tyranny? Would we stand for the defense of democracy?
I'm glad you enjoyed. We certainly did here. All right, back to what are the stories from last night? One of the more interesting moments that's getting a little bit of play out there was, well, Doug. Who is Doug? Doug is Dome's husband. What's that make him? The second man? I don't know. It's really weird. I'm still coming around on this first man, second man, whatever he is. He's Vice President Dome's husband. And he was hanging out with the real president, Jill Biden, last night, the foremost elder abuser in the country. And man alive, I got to tell you, there's been all these rumors about tensions between Joe Biden and Dome and how Joe doesn't like Dome and Jill doesn't like Dome. And I'm glad these two could come together. All right. Look, I'm not going to make a big thing of it. It's going to be the end of the world. But how much odd do we have to see from these people before we accept that maybe there's something more there than them just being a little off? And I'm talking about all these politicians, all these D.C. swamp types. Joe Biden's history is checkered, to put it mildly. Jill Biden and Joe Biden's history is odd. My goodness, we're not even going to go into Dome's history because it's a kids' show. We can't even talk about her escapades. Now, smooching on the lips. We have a really gross government full of gross people. Probably just going to go ahead and leave it at that. All right, let's get on to the real thing. What did you hear? What didn't you hear last night? Well, here's the problem for Joe Biden. Joe Biden has nothing he can brag about. That's just the real truth. He has nothing he can brag about. And honestly, this is his own fault. He surrounded himself with communists. He himself is a weapons-grade corrupt idiot, and he's allowed his whole administration to be taken over by these nutballs. And so they've taken over, and communists have done what communists do. They've destroyed everything they could find. From the border to energy to you name it, they've destroyed it. The value of the dollar, they've waged a war against all these things, the things you rely on, and it's been a very, very successful war. Well, if you're president of the United States of America and your approval numbers are in the tank, and you get all the numbers about inflation and people living paycheck to paycheck, and no one's happy with you at all. At this point, Joe Biden's staring at poll numbers from Democrats who don't want him to run again. So what are you going to do? You got to do something for an hour. Look, you got to give the speech. What are you going to do? Joe Biden's going to do what Joe Biden did. He's going to lie. He's going to throw money and he's going to lie. The Medicare Social Security lie, this might be a first in history, and this is what I mean by this. Joe Biden, as we've talked about a lot on this show, is the biggest liar in the history of the presidency. And I say that again as somebody who knows that every president lies. Republicans, Democrats, they all lie all the time. I'm not naive, I know that. Joe Biden tells these huge lies, easily verifiable lies, and he'll not only say them, he'll say them over and over again. Like, yeah, that's good. His own staffers have come to him and said, hey, can you stop saying that people couldn't own a cannon when the Second Amendment was ratified? Because that's not true, and that's very easy to verify. Could you stop saying it? But he won't. He just keeps going because he's a complete sociopath. And so last night was interesting to me because Joe Biden told a huge lie about Medicare and Social Security, and even he seemed a little uncomfortable saying it.
Instead of making the wealthy pay their fair share, some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress doesn't vote. Well, I'm glad to see you. No, I tell you, I enjoy conversion. You know, it means if Congress doesn't keep the programs the way they are, they'd go away. Other Republicans say, I'm not saying it's a majority of you. I don't even think it's even a significant, but it's being proposed by individuals. I'm not politely not naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you. Look, folks.
Weird, right? And I did see some hand-wringing today about Republican conduct during the State of the Union. Oh my goodness, why were they so mean? Why aren't they respectful? This is what it is now. This is what our country is now, and I, for one, am here for it. Democrats want to behave like tiny children. Nancy Pelosi ripping up the State of the Union, all of them screaming and yelling, wearing white, the whole thing. You remember all these things when Donald Trump was president. Don't expect decorum now from the new right. The low-T GOP would have got there and sat on their hands and, well, we have to respect the office of the presidency. Those days are gone. You want to act like little children, you get treated like little children. Let's play these games. And look, Joe isn't doing well mentally. Does Joe have dementia? I don't know. Is it Alzheimer's? Is he just senile? I don't know. I haven't diagnosed him. I don't know that anybody has, nor am I qualified to do so. But I'm also somebody with eyes and ears. Joe Biden is not fit to be president of the United States of America. He's not mentally fit. And that has nothing to do with his politics. He can't do the job. We're on the precipice of potential World War III. China, maybe Russia. The commander-in-chief can't do the job. He can't do it. And so what do on these nights? Well, they do something to him, whatever that may be, to get him geared up because he has to speak for an hour after dark, and we all know he's been sundowning by then. So what happens is Joe gets all hopped up on something, and it messes him up because his mind doesn't work that well anyway. But then he starts slurring his words and forgetting where he was, and well, here he is.
And congratulations to Chuck Schumer, another term as Senate Minority Leader. If you try anything to raise the cost of producing jobs, I will veto it. Raise the cost of producing jobs, I will veto it. Let's commit ourselves to make the words of Tyler's mom true. Car prices went up, people got laid off, so did everything from refrigerators to cell phones. The United States of America, 13th in the world in infrastructure, modern infrastructure.
All right. And beyond the speech, I know I'm not supposed to make a big deal out of this. I'm not supposed to talk about it, but I'm sorry. Anyone who's worked around or been around or done any volunteer work or anything with people who are struggling with things like dementia and Alzheimer's, they know that walk. Mr. Producer, if you don't mind, would you play that again a couple times for me just so everyone can see it? I know it's just a little 5-second video. Look at how that human being walks. You know that gait. If you know, you know. You nurses who work around these people, you know that gait. Joe Biden has something significant wrong with his mind. It's actually sad. I'm really not making fun of him for it. It's sad. It's a terrible thing. It's probably visited your family in one way or another, God forbid, but it probably has. But he can't be president of the United States of America.
Support the First TV today and get instant access to exclusive specials like Who is Ron DeSantis, the history of FBI scandals, and America's worst presidents. Visit thefirsttv.com/support or download the First TV app to become a supporter and start watching today.